Hi guys, welcome to Paris. I'm with Danny and David. Danny is the guest of the party tonight, the Motown party, and we have a tribute to Larry Levan and the Paradise Garage. And David came because he wrote this book, Le Chant de la Machine, and it's a cartoon book about club history, and there is a few pages on the Paradise Garage, also the loft. So we're just gonna chat, and you can ask questions, and we will try to answer as best we can. So, yeah, why not start with you?
Thank you.
And so let me show you the book to everybody. And
Comic book.
This is a comic book, and this is the third reissue. I've got to say, this book was very important for me because I learned a lot about it, and it was easy to go through it, you know. And how did you come up with the idea of the book? What happened?
So it's a long time ago now, it's like 20 years ago. So like you said, it's the third version of the book. It was with my friend, this is now called Mathias Cousin, and we wanted to do comic books. We knew since we were teenagers, and we wanted to do comic books because we are fan of comic books since a long time. But we were also fan of music and house and everything. And at that time, really at that time, you've got to remember like the mid-90s. Nobody knew the history of house and techno in France, not a lot at least. And we took some articles in mostly English magazine because there were not a lot of American magazine as far as I can remember. So, and we was like a huge paper in ID magazine about the Chicago and Chicago scene, and so it's fantastic, all this story. And then you read an article about Larry Levan and you say, oh, this is all fantastic story, nobody talking about them. And we say, why not trying to make it as a comic book? Why not? We wanted to make a comic book. There's an interesting story. Why don't we mix it together? And like we can see in the first chapters, Matthias was really influenced by Robert Crumb, the famous underground cartoonist. And Crumb was one of the first one who talked about music in comic books form, which is not obvious, you know. And we really felt there was a connection. We were very sure that a guy like Robert Crumb surely hates techno and house and things like that. But when he was drawing all these blues artists of the 30s, and they were ripped off and everything, and when we see the Chicago story, it looks like it was the grandson of all these bluesmen, you know, and it's a bit the same story. So we say, yeah, let's talk about it like that. So there's a lot of different chapters. The first one is before everything, then there's the loft, then there's the Paradise Garage, then there's Chicago, Detroit. Then we go to Europe. Well, we were in Europe with the Palace, then in Europe again with Manchester thing and everything, the rave, the ecstasy story, and different issues.
Those are like the different chapters?
Yeah, there's like different chapters. And so at the end, I guess it's kind of a bit of the story because the story is never ending. And the funny thing, when we did it, and I said it really at the beginning in the intro, is that the internet was just beginning. So when we knew there's a guy called David Mancuso, but we don't know what he looks like. We know there's a guy called Tom Moulton, we didn't know what he looked like. So we had to guess. And for example, Tom Moulton in the Mel Sheeran book, and the Mel Sheeran book was really important for us. They said, oh, he was gorgeous, he looked like a Marlboro cowboy. So we said to him, well, let's draw a Marlboro cowboy, guys. So I guess he was not wearing a hat like a Marlboro cowboy. And the really funny thing is that then I met 3 or 4 times David Mancuso. So I showed him the book and he was happy. But for the first time, like 1 month ago, I talked with Tom Moulton, which I never met. I talked to him on Facebook and I sent him the pages. But it's so funny that 20 years after you talk to the guy and say, we didn't know what you look like. Is it okay for you now? I can do anything. But and he said, yeah, it's okay, it's fun.
Danny, you were friends with Larry Levan, and you were like regular customer at the Paradise Garage. You even played there. So, can you tell us about it?
Well, I mean, I met Larry actually in the loft. I came to give David some records, and his DJ booth was actually a loft in his living room with this loft. And I go up the stairs and Larry's DJing. And
Larry was DJing at the loft.
yeah, he was playing, and I stood there for a few minutes, and then when he had a moment, I said, "Hey, where's David?" And he just pointed to a bed on the side. He goes, "Oh, he's out of it." And Dave was like this, and we became friends. The records I brought from David, I let him play, and became friends from there. And that's where I met Francois and became friends with him. But
What year was that?
this is about 75.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I first went to the garage, I was a member of For the Record Pool, which was also where Def Mix was. Judy Weinstein ran that. And because Larry was in our pool, all the members had free, with your membership, could get in the garage free. So I went to the garage, and I was already friends with Larry, but I wasn't going there like Larry invited me. I just went and I saw him there. And as we got even closer, I realized he lived in the garage in the back. And for the first few years, that's where his house was. And in the daytime, I might roller skate there, and he'd let me in, and I'd roller skate around while he's playing his new records or something. But the garage was within 10 years, this metamorphosis of, it kept improving. They kept putting money into it, and it was always changing for the better. And it was great like that.
But Larry first played at the loft. At the Continental Bar?
That was like one day. It wasn't like he's stationed to play. It's more like David's out of it and he's just playing, you know.
So where did he learn to mix, Larry?
I think he basically learned from the gallery, from Nicky. Him and Frankie Knuckles worked at the gallery, and
They put acid
Larry
in the
was
punch?
very inquisitive, and Nicky saw that he, wanted to fool around with it and ask. He was asking a lot of questions, and so I think he was playing a little bit there when it was closed, like just playing records, and then he got a job. I think it was the Continental Baths.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
it was the first place, but that's what I heard. And then after that, Reed Street, which the same owner owned the garage, owned it, Michael Brody. And that was a very hot place, but it was a lot smaller, nothing the size of the garage.
Yeah, the garage was way bigger.
It was a big club. It was I think the dance floor could probably hold about 700-800 people, but there's a lot more rooms and everything.
So that can mean 3,000 people in the night, 4,000?
They never packed those numbers in there. I would say maybe more like on a packed night, 12 to 1,500, yeah.
And so if you didn't have a card, you cannot get it? Or if you were with somebody who had the card, you could get it?
I think the premise, like the Loft, was it's strict membership. A celebrity or somebody, I know this person, probably not going to get in. The person you had to know was the actual door person. That some of those people got in, but it was very strict.
But how did it function exactly? Because when I was much younger, I never heard about the Paradise Garage. I was a huge fan of New Order, the English band, and I had all the
I love
bootleg.
that video with the...
Yeah, the Confusion video was the Fun House and the Paradise Garage, which was one of the only things we had when he did the Chandler Machine.
Yeah.
But I had a bootleg when I was 13 years old of New Order playing at the Paradise Garage.
Right.
So we did a live. So they were not the only one. But I guess it was not for members. It was also for live acts, and you have to pay like a normal. It was before
I mean, I think that I don't know about that specific thing because maybe it was just for filming, but maybe they rented it out for
No, they did
filming.
a show. They did a concert, which is different than the video.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Maybe they rented out during the week, but that's a rare thing.
Rare.
They might have done that and then decided not to do it later.
Okay, because at the Palace, for example, in France, there was live acts at 8 o'clock, And I guess
They had some live
closed
acts
and then
at the garage, but they kind of focused on these are acts of music Larry's playing and that Larry wanted to perform there. I think the New Order thing is kind of an exception.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was not live acts every week and things like that?
No, they didn't use the space for much else. I think they really tried to focus. And it was a time in New York with real estate where people didn't maximize things. They were open the weekend and they don't have to make money every day of the week. It paid for itself on the weekend.
So it was Friday, Saturday?
Yes.
And that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. And just to be, because do you think somebody who came to New York, like, I don't know, French guy, hip French guy, and they said, people told him, oh, go to the 54, it's the nice club. Was Paradise Garage on the map of the clubs you have to be, or was it really confidential like the Loft, I suppose, was? You know what I mean? Was it a bit
I think
mainstream?
the Loft was more confidential because they both, a lot of clubs really didn't want pictures. Studio was the exception to that. A lot of clubs barred cameras. But I thought the garage, even though they barred cameras, was a little more public as far as their notoriety. They earned a reputation. People did know about them. They didn't shun that. I think the Loft tried to maintain a kind of a reputation that this is David's house, you know. So the garage was not totally a secret, it just wasn't mainstream.
It was mainstream, okay.
Yeah.
And
it was ethnic, so that also kept it a little off-center.
What do you mean by ethnic exactly?
Meaning it wasn't a white club. It was basically a lot of black and Puerto Rican, mostly ethnic crowd.
The big question. and gay? Was it mostly gay or?
Mostly gay, and then they did a Friday night, which was straight, which wasn't complete straight, but it was mostly straight.
Okay, well, Friday was straight and Saturday was more.
gay.
Okay. Okay.
And Larry basically asked, like he ran the membership, so he screened everyone who became a member, and you wanted to come to Saturday night, it's a gay party, he would say, are you gay?
Okay.
And you had, a lot of people lied, and he'd make them do things like, no, you're not gay, like show me, and he embarrassed them. Yeah.
Some people ask us a question on the internet. How was the public different in the Loft from the other clubs?
How was
The public, the people.
public different in the Loft from all the other clubs? I think, like I said, very strict membership. This is became a community of David's friends. It's like this is his house, and it was the first of that kind, and a really unique timing of how these people started. Really right after the gay rights had started, so there's a big gay influence there, even though it's not a gay party. And it was a change musically of, he was seeking out a lot of records that you wouldn't normally hear in mainstream, and these albums and other versions of things, and great music that sounded great audiophile on the system. And so the crowd was very intensely devoted, and it was a special thing. I would say that it really had a very different feeling from other clubs. It stood on its own, and it's kind of the DJ Mecca. All the DJs went there. This is where you heard all the new music, the new records, and cutting-edge music. Generally would hear it there first.
And so what's the difference with the crowd of the Paradise Garage?
Well, Paradise Garage is the next generation almost, where it's audiophile, it's membership, it has a lot of similar principles, but it's stepped up, it's bigger, and I think it's a little more focused on like a pumpier, bigger sound, David was kept at a certain volume, actually got lower over the years, but it was more audiophile. And even though the garage sounded great, I think David focused more on the audiophile and focused more on records that represented that audiophile sound. And also David focused on, this is a production, I respect this record. I don't need a mixer. I'm programming a record to play after another record, and I just have a switch. When that one's over, I go to the other record, and it's good on its own. And Larry mixed, he mixed quite a lot.
What about huge band like we're making great music like Chic? Was Larry playing Chic records, or it was too mainstream? Or David, or
The
you?
first time I heard I Want Your Love was at the garage. It had just come out. It was on pink vinyl, and they put it out for Valentine's Day. I knew I had heard about it, like I didn't know the record yet, but I went to the garage that weekend, and that's where I heard it first. Everybody Dance, that, I can't say he focused too much on too many of the other songs because they hit pop very quickly, and there was just no need to focus on.
And when did you end up the night? Was it at the Loft, at the Paradise Garage? We were closing the first, and we were doing the after
Loft
party.
was the years before the garage, so then once the garage opened, that was my main spot, and the Loft could be after, but it was a bit of a, after you hear this loud sound, your ears are a little like overrun to go to the Loft. It should be the other way around.
Okay.
Or skip the garage and go to the Loft maybe one night.
At what time did you close the garage?
Basically between 10 a.m., 1 p.m. in that area.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, it was a long night, and there'd be a crowd, like I would come at 3 or 4 in the morning, there'd be a crowd that would come between 3 and 7 a.m.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about house music? When did you notice it was new music, and what was the first record that you named as house music?
Well, it's a funny thing because there were these records that you might think of as house records, but the term house music hadn't happened yet. So a couple of early records you might think, this is house music too. But the first record that this is called house music was this J.M. Silk record, Music is the Key. That was like the first record I knew of as, there might have been others before that in Chicago, but in New York area, from Chicago, that was our first record that had this title, house music. And I embraced it right away, but after a little while, and even today, the term house music, like disco, is a little bit too broad. Everything isn't house music. I'm working in some club, and I had hip jobs and commercial jobs, and at this commercial club I'm playing at, the girl keeps coming over to me, could you play some house music? I really want house music. And I'm playing all these things, and I said, come on, you gotta give me a clue here. What do you want? What do you want? And hours are going by with this back and forth, and finally I said, give me a name. She goes, Jackson 5.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm glad you told me because I never would have guessed that.
We had the same thing with deep house in recent years.
It's
can you
just,
play deep house and they talk about
house
tech
music
house,
has a definition, but it doesn't cover all music, and certainly not all dance music.
So thank you all, and see you soon on the floor.